welcome back to my channel. Today we are continuing the HRCYED recommendations, and we have reached Remix, which is supposed to be variations of a story you know, and we need to read 5 books for this one. So first up, I have some recommendations for you, and then we will have a little look at my own TBR. First up, we have Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Novoa. This is a Pride and Prejudice remix, as it says right there on the tin. This is basically if Elizabeth were trans. To be fair, I didn't love this book, but I think it's just because I'm such a diehard Pride and Prejudice fan and I felt like this story was just barely there with the Pride and Prejudice. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want a beat for beat retelling of Pride and Prejudice with just some other thing thrown in. Like, Pride and Prejudice and zombies, I don't really have any interest in that, because people say it's literally just Pride and Prejudice, and then every now and again there's like a zombie pushed in there. So that's not what I want. I do want like a reimagining of the story, and I just don't think this one really hit that well on those tangents, you know. It was definitely an interesting story. I just felt like the whole Pride and Prejudice thing was a little bit off. I don't know. Then we have She Who Became the Sun, and this is basically, it says it's a reimagining of how the first Ming emperors in China came to be. I will confess I don't really know that story. So when I read this book, I didn't really have any concept of it being that. And I think maybe I was thinking a little bit Mulan-ish, because this is about a girl who has a family. They are very poor, and when the dad takes the kids to the fortune teller and spends all of his money on getting the boys' fortune told, the girl is like, what the F, man? What about me? And the fortune teller tells the boy that he's going to be a great warrior and like rich and famous one day. But the boy has always been coddled by the rest of the family, so basically he just like sits down and dies. And then the girl is like, F this, I'm going to become rich and famous, so I will pretend to be my brother and take his fate for my own. And she does that. I was gonna say that's what I didn't like. No, to be fair, I didn't love this story either, just because I don't love people who are ruthless when it comes to getting what they want. Like, if they step over people, if they break their promises, if they break trust between, you know, their friends and loved ones, it's not for me. You know, you can keep that ambition for yourself. And that's why I also, in V.E. Schwab's, what's it called? Is it called The Colors of Magic? Oh God, what's it called? It's called the Shades of Magic series. So the first book is A Darker Shade of Magic. And in that trilogy, there is a woman called Lila Bard, and everybody loves her, and I hate her. Because she's also this ruthless kind of girl who will make promises and break them without a second thought. And as long as she gets ahead, she doesn't give a flying about who gets hurt and who gets trampled on in the process. So if you like Lila Bard, maybe read this one. You could also read What Moves the Dead, which I would recommend you to do, because I actually really loved this one. It's about T. Kingfisher, and it's a replay of the fall of the House of Usher. This is about Easton, a former soldier who goes to visit his friend at this secluded castle thing where his friend lives. And it turns out there are nefarious things afoot. I will say no more because it's a really interesting book and a really short one, so I don't want to spoil too much. Then we also have The House Sapphire by Marissa Meyer. I enjoyed this one for what it was. That sounds like... No, I enjoyed it, but yeah, I did have a few gripes with it. But anyway, this is perhaps not a retelling, but the story of the ghost Bluebeard does come up in the lore of this book. It's about these two sisters who are sort of making a living doing these ghost tours in an abandoned house in the city, and when they are found out, they have to escape and try to make their living some other way, and this rich dude comes along and says he has a creepy old house that is haunted by a ghost, so could they come and exorcise the ghost for him? And the older sister's like, yeah, absolutely, that's what we do. And the younger sister's like, what are you talking about? Ghosts aren't real. And this is a scam. Like, they are the scammers. And yeah, things ensue from there. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of mystery and confusion, really. But in a good way. You could also read Longbourn. This is another Pride and Prejudice spin, but this is basically Pride and Prejudice told from the servants' perspective, and that is the servants of Longbourn, where the the Bennet family lives. And again, I didn't love this one. I mean, it wasn't like beat for beat Pride and Prejudice with just observation from the servants thrown in. It was very much the servants' point of view and their lives and their happenings, and then just every now and then there would be some allusion to what was happening with, you know, the what's it called, upper family or whatever, like the Bennets and all that stuff that we follow in Pride and Prejudice. And I think sometimes it was interesting to see, like, okay, so when, like, spoilers for Pride and Prejudice, but when Lizzie goes to visit Jane, she gets her skirts all muddied because she walks over the fields, and then obviously someone has to wash those skirts, and it's not Lizzie. So obviously it's the servants, and they're like, okay, like, could you have walked on the path so I wouldn't have to spend like half a day washing your skirts? But yeah, and those were like interesting little tidbits, but in the long run, I didn't really like the plot that was unfolding with the servants. You could also read The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss, and this is a full series, so if you enjoy it, you have more books to look forward to. But basically, this is the daughters of literary people like Jekyll and Hyde and Frankenstein and Dr. Moreau, and I think what's called Sherlock and Watson also appear in here, but I think they're more like uncle-esque people to these girls. And I remember when it first came out, I was really excited because people kept saying that it was written like one of the girls is writing this story about what happened, and then the other girls will come with commentary, like if she's writing, then this happened and blah blah blah, and I said this, and then someone, you didn't say that, you said this and I said this instead. And that sounded really fun to me, but I think I remember when I read it, I just thought that that was very few and far between, so it wasn't really a big thing in the books, or not as big as I had been led to believe, in my opinion. Yeah, but if you like it, that kind of story, definitely go for this one. And I think it's like a historical mystery, so they're trying to solve a case, obviously. As for my own TBR, I would like to read I, Medusa, and this is obviously a retelling of the Medusa legend. Yeah, a young girl who is treated badly by her surroundings, basically. Then we also have Wide Sargasso Sea, and this is a prequel, if you will, to Jane Eyre. And spoilers for Jane Eyre now, so skip to the next book if you don't want to hear about this. But this follows Mr. Rochester's first wife. So it follows their like love story, if you will, when they first meet, and what's it called? Shack up. Yeah, so, and I think it is considered quite a classic, so it would be great to read this one as well. Then we have a bunch of Arthurian legend retellings. I think you could probably find an Arthurian retelling in whatever genre and whatever writing style you wanted, because it's just so pervasive in like history and culture. And yeah, so we do have the Once and Future Queen, and this one sounds like it's a little bit more like fun and lighthearted than some of the other Arthurian legend retellings. The synopsis says it's Outlander meets The Princess Bride plus Camelot in a fresh, big-hearted feminist time-slip adventure, complete with time travel and good running shoes. So that definitely sounds... Oh, that's a long synopsis. Okay. Yeah, that definitely sounds interesting, if nothing else. Then we also have The Once and Future King, which is also a retelling of the Arthurian legend, but more serious and somber, as far as I can tell. This one does seem to be a little bit more straightforward of a retelling. So the point of the remix prompt is that it's supposed to be a variety. So like gender-bent Hamlet or Sapphic Arthurian legend or Greek myths set in modern day, or what have you, like a Robin Hood set in space, that kind of thing. So maybe this one doesn't quite fit in because it seems to be just like the normal retelling. But if you want a Sapphic twist on the Arthurian legend, you could read The Lady of the Lake, where the Lady of the Lake meets Arthur, the future king, but it turns out it's Arthur's sister Morgan that the Lady of the Lake is more interested in. Then I also was looking at The Death I Gave Him, which is a sci-fi retelling of Hamlet as a locked room murder mystery. And I do enjoy locked room murder mysteries, and I'm trying to read more sci-fi, so this could be a good option. And then finally we have Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher, and this is a Sapphic reimagining of Robin Hood, where Robin Hood's granddaughter is now running the merry men out in the woods, and they accidentally kidnap the wrong person, who is I think it says she's the assistant to the sheriff of Nottingham, and they meant to abduct the actual sheriff. But yeah, I did read Art and Gwen, whatever, Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher, and really enjoyed it. So I have high hopes for this one, and I also do love the story of Robin Hood, and especially the Men in Tights movie. So I'm hoping we have some sort of like the same kind of vibe from this one. But yeah, do you have any favorite myths, legends, fairy tales, classics that you love reading a bunch of retellings of? Like, I know that there are a bunch of retellings of Little Women, and presumably all the Jane Austen and Jane Eyre also, I think. So let me know if you have any favorite ones, if you've read any of these ones, what you thought about them. And thank you for watching. I will see you soon with another video. Bye!